Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the JDW Sports Talk Show. I'm Aaron. I'm the Texas fan. This is my boy DJ. He's a Colts fan, and this is our rival podcast. We bring it on every week as much as we can. Currently, things are quiet because the draft is coming up. This is usually the dead part of the NFL offseason, but we've got 2 weeks left until the draft, and things are going to get exciting within the next week, within trade rumors, with speculations of what's going to happen at what picks. But so far, we're just going to go over what's happening today. I'm going to go over later of what we got happening with the countdown to the NFL draft. But other than that, what is up, DJ? What's going on with the Colts over there?
Well, with the Colts, not too much has happened, but we did
Hmm.
have some two moves that I'd like to announce for what the Colts were able to do this past week. That is sign Mo Alley Cox, the tight end,
Oh, okay.
right? The veteran, of course, he's been there for a while. He basically got signed to a 1 year, $2.2 million deal, right? Not too much. We were able to re-sign him,
Hmm.
and this is a tight end that, if I were to describe him, I think he's an amazing tight end. Actually, I actually thought like maybe we'd be able to cut him just because he is a veteran, he is getting up there in age, and a lot of these younger tight ends, Colts, I thought would want to give a chance. But Mo Ali Cox is still an amazing player, still an amazing athlete. The knowledge he brings to that locker room, right? We talk about it. He's a great, knowledgeable tight end. He knows a lot about the game. He's a veteran, of course. So Colts signing him to that 1 year, $2.2 million deal. Well, not a lot of money, and also
Hmm.
it's just 1 year. So I think the Colts just kind of want to run it again 1 year for him. So the new tight end that they bring from the draft potentially, right? He can mentor. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts, Aaron, about that.
No, for me, the way that contract is, it's honestly the same. That the way we go is like, oh, we're gonna give this one
Mhm.
player, pretty much a veteran, a 1 year contract just to see how he does in that 1 year. If he does progress within that 1 year of, of expectation, it's like, okay, well, we'll throw him another 1 or even 2 year contract because we know what his skill is. But and even if we bring in a tight end from the draft, it's still like, okay, we're still gonna have two tight ends, and if the rookie turns out to be good too, then we got a good duo to hang on to. So you're gonna have that rookie for 4 years, and until his contract comes up, and the veteran, if Mo Alley Cox does do great for y'all, you're gonna keep him on the books. So like I said, there's gonna be that.
Yeah,
It's good that it's that 1 year contract instead of putting too much money and too many years into one player.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. And, Mo Ali Cox, just being the amazing tight end that he is, he's still pretty solid, right? He's just big, he's able to really get up the seam, and he's an excellent, catcher. Also a great blocker, by the way, I think, in
Oh yeah.
terms of the run game. And I'd say he's still a really valuable player as he's able to give knowledge back to the players, back to the youth, and able to continue that cycle of, building some really good solid tight ends there in that locker room.
Mhm.
But how about with the Houston Texans? Any new news coming out of there? Any new re-signings, cuts? What's going on over there in Houston?
Honestly, so far nothing has came up, this week or nothing like that. I think the only news that's come up lately is us
Mm.
signing Jalen Petrie to a 3 year contract. Honestly, I gotta
Oh,
go back to look at the money. But it's
yeah.
a 3 year contract, and a lot of fans are like 50-50 on it. But I'm in my head, I'm like, Jalen Petrie was one of our best defensive players. Like last year, before he got injured, the way we used him on the blitz, the way we used him in coverage, he's going to be our nickel heading into the next season, as well as just a full on hybrid from nickel to safety. He can play
Yeah.
either. He's just that weapon that you want on that defensive secondary side, especially in case somebody has to
Yeah.
go sit down on the bench or anything like that. But with his presence, he's already a veteran. He's been in the league for a good amount of years already. Everybody on the defense loves him. What he does, like last year, if anybody looks at the highlights of Jalen Petrie last year, you saw him attacking people, like headhunt, like not headhunt,
Yeah.
but using his body to really attack people. Get the fumble, get the interception.
Yeah.
But to me, 3 year contract, I really don't mind it with Jalen Petrie. To me, he's a great attacker on the defense. Like I say, the defense next year is just
Mm.
gonna be crazy with everybody back healthy. Especially Jalen Petrie, especially with who we've added from C.J. Gardner Johnson, still having Derek Stingley, still having Kamari Lassiter, and whoever else we decide to add in the draft for the secondary.
No, yeah, and I wholeheartedly agreed with that. I think when it comes to a player like Jalen Petrie, first of all, Jalen Petrie on his own is
Mm-hmm.
an amazing player. Like,
Oh,
he makes his name noticed on the field, whether it's through turnovers, whether it's through the tackles, right? Whether it's through those passes defended. He's just an amazing athlete. It's an amazing player. Kind of reminds me of the player that Colts just signed, Cam Bynum, right? They make their names known. They have high energy, really great character, right? I think Jalen Petrie is one of those players that has really great character when it comes to the game. And you could just see it on the field. As a Colts fan, I didn't really know his name going into this year. Like, I knew him, like Jalen Petrie, right? Solid player.
Yeah.
Right. After this year, it's like he's a great player. He's clearly a great player. He makes his name always noticed, and he's really been able to evolve and show his development as an athlete in the NFL. And that's something you got to respect. Whether you're a Texans fan or an NFL fan in general.
Yeah, and like when it comes to like how can I say of who you see in the offseason, who's going to come sign, it's best to like really go back and look at what they did last year, heading into the end of the year. No, you hope for their greatness of this year. So that's why for us, it's like with Jalen Petrie, what he did last year before he got injured. There's hope in what he's going to do. For me, in a way, if he was like a bit bigger, like muscle wise and all that, to me, he'd remind me of like an attacker like Cam Chancellor in a way. If he was a bit bigger, if he was a bit bigger, man, he'd honestly remind me of him because of the way he attacks, the way he hits. So yeah, but I'm not mad about Jalen Petrie signing at all.
Yeah, I mean, what he doesn't have in size, right? He makes up in his ability to be able to move around the field fast enough, right?
Trust me,
He's
he
all over the
throws his
field,
body.
man. Yeah, definitely. He's all over the field. He's able to make so many plays, and I think that's what makes him stand out, to be honest. And going from like Jalen Petrie, amazing player. The Colts, in return of Mo Alley Cox, were able to go to Matt Gay, a kicker. So unfortunately, we did cut Matt Gay. Right, we got him from the Rams, and all stats right here are going to be provided by CBS John Breach. But with these stats, Matt Gay originally came to the Colts, signed a 4-year, $22.5 million deal. I don't know if you remember this. It was a huge deal for kickers. A large contract that a kicker has ever gone free agency at the time. Gay, now, the previous season, 2022, with the Rams, he was really good, right? He set records. He hit like 93% of his field goals, which is insane. But he never came close to matching that number with the Colts, really. With the Colts, he only hit just 82% of his field goal attempts, with the biggest struggles coming from long range. Really not great. During the 2024 season, he was able to hit a perfect from 28 of 28 from inside 50 yards. But when it came to those longer field goals, he just hit 33%, anything above 50, 3 out of 9, right? So that's unacceptable. You can't, those long field goals are what helps you win those football games. So, just this past season, 2024, I think Colts were probably just disappointed. But also, he's 31 years old. He had a groin injury, right? Injuries affected him. He had that good year with the Rams, but ever since he came here, just has gotten unlucky with injuries and not really living up to the potential I think the Colts wanted him to be.
Yeah, and to me, that's why with kickers, it's kind of like you always need a backup plan because you know that there's going to be that 1 year where they either fall off or they get hurt. Like for us, Kaimi Fairbairn, he's done great. He can hit the deep field goals, but there's times where he gets inconsistent with the extra point, like the extra PAT, and it's like, dude, how are you missing from that far? You're not even that far from the goal compared to how good you are from the distance. So there's always times where we're always like, dude, we need to get somebody in here to like. Just to battle with him, see who can win the kicking challenge, just so he can get better. Because there's times where we've lost games because of him. So it's one of those things where kicker. A lot of people kind of, how can I say, go over the kicker of what they actually do, and they don't really care sometimes. So that's why with kickers, it's like, nah, they're a benefactor to this team, to any team. So that's why it's always best to have a consistency plan with who's going to be that guy for the kicking position.
No, exactly. Having just a backup guy, having a backup option, and kind of like one last thing here with the Colts. Braden Smith, right tackle, recently came out and really just talked about how he contemplated. Now, this is a very serious issue. Contemplated suicide. Very, very serious issue. We never really want to undervalue the importance of CTE, the importance of these linemen, right? These offensive linemen, defensive linemen, or any NFL player going through these concussion, CTE issues, right? Long-term CTE is a thing, and it's a very dangerous thing to get as for NFL athletes. And Braden Smith spoke out, and this is kind of what he said in the quote. He said, "I was physically present, but I was nowhere to be found," he told the newspaper, right? "I did not care about playing football. I didn't care about hanging out with my family, with my wife, with my newborn son. I was a month away from putting a bullet through my brain." And I'm like, first of all, very, very serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, just, something that I think fans don't kind of consider is what these players go through, right? These players put their body on the line every day that they go out there. And this is kind of just, I want to take this moment just to, look at that quote and be like, we've got to know these players are human too.
Yeah, and honestly, a segment that I was going to get into because it was just crazy news. Just woke up this morning. Just dealing with other stuff and all that. But then I looked on Twitter, and I saw the news of literally a prospect to be a first round pick, Kyron Lacy. He actually took his life
Yeah.
last night. So it kind of had me.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
LSU. For
wow.
anybody that doesn't know, LSU standout Kyron Lacy, he took his life last night here in
Damn.
Houston. And to me, when I woke up to hear the news, I was like, "This is just crazy." He has like so much in his career that was about to go pop off for his family, for his own life, from his college career to his NFL career. So for me, I was just gonna come in just being like, mental health isn't a joke at all.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Like people need to really make this a factor nowadays. Like mental health is
Yeah.
just it's a hard topic. I've went through my years of toughness of going through anything, but I just want everybody to know they're not alone. Just please find as much help as you can from family to friends. You'll know who is true to you in life once you really look up. Once you're in that point of like who's really the closest, who you can trust in. But that to me is just one of those hard things where it's like, just please, this isn't the answer, but it's just tough to know that
Yeah.
a young kid like him with so much heart, so much of a career path that's going to happen, that this just happened last night.
Yeah, and especially in college, even getting out of college, I think college, like you said, like the rates are more higher for college students to
Mhm.
commit suicide. And just man, rest in peace to that young athlete, to that young player with potential. And it happens to a lot more athletes than everybody expects. These athletes go through a lot, and mental health is something to be taken seriously.
Mhm.
But yeah, Braden Smith speaking about that, I feel like people say it's a bad or good thing. I mean, I'm not either or. For me, I'm very neutral on this topic, and for me,
Mhm.
I'm also the kind to support the stigma of mental health, to support
Yeah.
it because it does happen to everybody, and these NFL athletes just go through so much. So,
Yeah.
Braden Smith speaking out about that, something that was a great on his part, just speaking out about it. And it's hard to see that these linemen do go through that. And he did miss the final 5 games of the season. He will return next season. I feel like that was kind of good that he took that break from the
Mhm.
NFL to kind of work on his mental health. I think that's good when you address it, and kind of when you not address it, it's
Yeah.
actually an issue. But yeah, I think good on his part to take a break from the game. But um, other than that, any other things that came from Houston Texans on your part, you think was any draft prospects or anything you found?
Other than that, nothing else has popped up. It's just been like, of course, there's been certain news from the draft of certain cases that have been happening with receivers that I've been wanting, like Isaiah Bond. They've been saying about some assault case, just and like just plenty of those kind of, how can I say, news topics that come out before the draft, like trying to make somebody fall off in the draft, like, oh this happened, like just kind of like finding a way to drop their ranking because of something they did. So right now it's kind of one of the things where
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like it's that time where the draft is coming up and it's time for all the media to come out on this certain player, that certain player. Oh, they did this, they did that, to drop their status in the draft.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, things like that are gonna happen. Definitely interested to see what players get drafted. But ladies and gentlemen, we are now less than 2 weeks away from the
Mhm.
draft, which means that next week I will probably come in here, and I will both come in here,
Mhm.
ready either next week or probably the week after, but the week after would already be the draft. So sometime probably next week, we'll try to be back, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about draft prospects, potential draft players that could be drafted, as we're less than 2 weeks away. It's already getting close. I know it's going by hella fast. But yeah, that's going to be it from me, DJ Abcool. That was Aaron, head of the table. We thank you for joining this podcast, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.